for today. Jose will be back next meeting. So I want to say good afternoon and welcome everybody here. We have quite a turnout here in person. For those around the table, please be sure to turn on your microphone when speaking. For those participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG jurisdiction. If you wish to comment at today's meeting, please complete a request to speak form. MAG staff can assist you with any questions you may have. If you're parked in the garage, we got some new people here. There is a validation stamp running around. I think it's on the back credenza there. If you purchase a transit ticket, please see staff. They can help you with that. Also, hearing assisted devices are available from MAG staff. So we do have a couple new people to introduce. We'll run around the table real quick. We have a couple of people in person that I'm not used to seeing. They're usually online, but we'll start on the very end. You want a quick introduction?
Sure. So my name is Katie Gall. I'm an engineer for the city of Chandler, and I'm sitting in for Warren White to speak about the trace your wire case that we have.
Thank you. Thank you. And we have US Pipe here. Matthew, you want to, yeah, Connor, go ahead. Start, Connor.
Yeah, hi there. Connor Madden, US Pipe.
Matt Slazik with US Pipe.
And then we have a couple others sitting in the background from US Pipe. I believe we also have, do we have Mac on the line, Gordon, from Flagstaff? Okay, I know we sent him an invite. McNamara, is that his name? Yeah, he was interested in joining. Okay. So agenda item number 2 is call the audience. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under the MAG jurisdiction that are not on the agenda, informational items, or items on the agenda for discussion, not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for the call of the audience unless the chair requests an exception to this limit. I have received no requests to speak for call to the audience. MAG also provides an opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via the MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting are shared with committee members in advance of the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. Gordon, have we received anything?
No comments were submitted online this month.
Thank you. All right, we'll jump right into agenda item number 3, which is going to be the approval of May 6th, 2026 meeting minutes. Gordon's going to pull those up. Hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes and any corrections they may have had, they got with Gordon. If not, now's the time to do it. Do any of the committee members have any questions, comments, or notes to the meeting minutes? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes as written?
This is Roy, City of Scottsdale. I motion to approve them as written.
Thank you, Roy. This time I'll take a second motion.
This is Marty Robbins from McDott. I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Marty. I appreciate that. With that, we'll move into a roll call vote.
Thank you, Chair. Let's just roll right down the list here, starting with ADOT, Avondale, Rob, are you filling in for Jim today?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yes. I'm
Thank
filling
you.
in for Jim.
And as far as the minutes, do you approve the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Buckeye? I think Buckeye is not here. Chandler?
Yes.
Thank you. El Mirage,
Yes.
Lawrence, Gilbert,
Yes.
Glendale,
Yes.
Goodyear,
Yes.
Maricopa County,
Yes.
Mesa,
Yes.
Peoria,
Yes.
Phoenix. Miguel, do you want to cover for Jose? Scottsdale,
Yes.
Surprise,
Yes.
Tempe, Tolleson, or Youngtown. I don't think any of them are online. So otherwise, looks like the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Gordon. Miguel, are you covering for Jose during his absence? For City of Phoenix? All right. Miguel, when you get an opportunity, jump in and just let me know. We're gonna move into agenda item number 4. This is a presentation on ductile iron pipe, V-Bio polyethylene encasement and zinc coated pipe. As you know, this presentation is gonna be brought to us by the US Pipe Group. It really just includes standard recommendations and, you know, practices that are across the ductile iron pipe industry. I think that's fair to say. And then also, as with anything, if you take anything out of this, we're looking for longevity with anything we build. And this is just to help with that longevity portion, kind of bring awareness to the group. So with that, I'll give the floor to Connor for the presentation. Thank you, Connor.
Thank you very much. Yeah, first off, thanks for having me here, of course. I'm excited to talk about this. Little couple minutes about me. Been at US Pipe for about 6 years now. Before that, I was in the oil and gas industry, and then all focused on corrosion control, so tanks and pipeline. So got quite a bit of background in the corrosion side of things. I'm the research development manager for US Pipe. So always looking at new products, new ideas, new concepts, and anything in between. So just jumping in, I always appreciated this slide when I first started with US Pipe. This was the first really discovery of polyethylene encasement back in 1951. And at the time, it was a bolt study. So back when we had mechanical joints before the push-on joint, and there was a lot of bolt corrosion, and DIPRA and other pipe companies were looking for solutions on the bolt side of things. And this was right when polyethylene film was kind of first being developed through DuPont, some of the other chemical companies. And we said, well, maybe we should put some on the pipe and see how it works. And really clearly from the picture, it wasn't just the bolts that it protected, but it was the big portion of the pipe as well. You can see where the polyethylene encasement stops on the top portion and the lower portion, prevented corrosion on the exterior. So of course, from these results, everybody got very excited. And the first commercial installation was not too far later. It was 1958 of an operating water line. And luckily, we still get to go to that water line. It's in Lafourche Parish, Louisiana. So very corrosive soils. And that water line is still active, still in service. And DIPRA actually goes back about every 5 years or so. You can see the dates on the bottom. And they dig a new portion, excavate a new area of the line, remove the polyethylene encasement, make sure the line is intact. They sound the pipe to make sure there's no external corrosion. I actually got to take these pictures back in 2021. And then I believe 2026 is coming up. We might end up being in 2027, but that's out of my control. So of course, from there, this is US Pipe. Went around the United States and looked at different active water lines that had polyethylene encasement wrapped around the pipe, hired an independent engineering firm. And in all of the cases, the pipe looks excellent. This is done in the late 80s. There's another group in the early 90s. But you can see there's some ductile, there's some gray, various locations. I'm not going to go through, each and every single one. But the point being, these are all 15, 20 years at the time, and looking in great condition in very corrosive soils. Of course, a lot of people always ask, how the heck does polyethylene encasement work? And the biggest answer is the dissolved oxygen is depleted in between the polyethylene encasement and the external surface of the pipe. And oxygen is a major driver of corrosion. And as soon as the dissolved oxygen drops down, of course, the corrosion rate follows it. So there's a paper in 2010, ASCE Pipelines, which was Schiff and Associates that wrote it, who later became HDR Engineering, which a lot of us know. And that's the reference there at the bottom. But a little bit more about that. That was a circulating water flow loop in a closed system. And there was corrosion probes on the pipe surface, as well as dissolved oxygen meters as well. So that's what that graph shows, is the dissolved oxygen after a period of a few days dropping down to a point where there's essentially no more corrosion. In addition to lab studies, we do a lot of field burials. So US Pipe owns a test site down in the Florida Everglades. We try to look for the most corrosive soil we could. We used to have a test site in New Jersey back in, I think, 57, I want to say, which is where a lot of the infrastructure started in the Northeast. And that is now a protected wetland. So we had to buy a new site back in 2001. And we do a lot of field studies of actual pipe in the ground, mainly focused on different methods of corrosion control. You can see the test stations that are coming up. That's what those stations that are coming up out of the ground. We can do various monitoring techniques to see how they're working. So because of all that research on polyethylene encasement, we found that there could be a better polyethylene encasement. How do we make it better? And one of the major issues in some of the coastal soils can be microbiologically influenced corrosion, or MIC. It's not too common outside of coastal areas, but there's some swamplands, some bogs and things that you can find it. And it thrives in a oxygen depleted condition. So of course, that's our major mechanism for preventing corrosion, is to consume the oxygen in between the polyethylene encasement and the pipe. So there's the risk of MIC corrosion. So that's why we added a antimicrobial to the film surface on the ID. So it's a 3-layer film. There's an outer layer that has UV stabilizers in it. It's white, so it's good to see if there's any damage to the wrap as it's going into the ground. It's very visible to see the black pipe underneath the contrasting white. And then the intermediate layer is just it's a 6 mil thick polyethylene, and then you have the inner layer that has the additives. So there's an antimicrobial and a corrosion inhibitor. And this product is available. It's not proprietary, to any manufacturer, and it meets all the requirements. AWWC 105 is a standard for polyethylene encasement. So there's a lot of all of the physical performance, physical properties of the product is all in there. Here's a great example of how it does work. We've got bare pipe on the left, 3 years. So it says 0.18. There's some other penetrations, but that's about 3 years in Everglades soil. So we can get a hole in a 1/4-inch wall pipe pretty quickly, which is unfortunate, and that's what we're trying to prevent and stop. So there's VBio on the right. That was, at the time, it was 6 years, and we still have a whole bunch of pipe and examples of it. In addition to VBio that came out of all that corrosion test site studies that we do, we also evaluated zinc coatings. Zinc coatings have been used for a long time, relatively. We started, I think in the 80s we did some, and then Europe, a lot of the ductile iron pipe, or cast iron manufacturers in Europe were using zinc a lot earlier than we were. And what we found is really the combination of the two, zinc and VBio, or zinc and polyethylene encasement, works tremendously well. So got to take these pictures not too long ago, a few years now, but this is 10-year-old pipe down in the Florida Everglades. So we also do intentional damage to the polyethylene encasement to simulate if a contractor has an unrepaired damage of the poly wrap. And you can see the pictures below where there's no corrosion. So that's 10.5 years of that pipe being in the ground. Kind of in a summary, we presented at AMP. AMP is the Association of Materials Protection and Performance. It used to be NACE, NACE, National Association of Corrosion Engineers, which is kind of the national and international organization that has all standards related to corrosion control. They're kind of the go-to source. And we presented, I think it was last year, maybe it was 2 years ago now, a very large data set that we have a whole bunch of pipe. So you can, I'm not going to go through all the details on the screen, but of course, a lot of numbers stand out. The main one being a 312 years. So when we examined there's 23 samples. This was only zinc and polyethylene encasement. This was not VBio, just because of the time that the pipe is in the ground. So we've got 5 years through 31 years. I'm very fortunate that my boss colleague has been at US Pipe for 53 years. So he's got to, I guess, reap the benefits of 30-year-old pipe. And we can get these numbers. So 312 years is fantastic. And you can see right above it, we got less than 6 years with just standard pipe. So it's a huge contrast. And of course, this is in corrosive soils. And this is a very big data set for us. So really not quite in conclusion, but is a summary of zinc and VBio just to really drive home. We always recommend VBio or polyethylene encasement with zinc. We never recommend zinc pipe just alone. We found the combination of the two is really the best bang for the buck. And again, of course, the dissolved oxygen depletion through polyethylene encasement or VBio, but you also have the zinc coating underneath that not only can be anodic, right? So it can sacrifice itself to protect the iron underneath it, but as the zinc sacrifices itself or corrodes, it leaves behind a passive film that also protects the pipe further from corrosion. So it's really the two of them together that we're looking for here. Back in, I want to say the early 2000s, DIPRA and Corpro, DIPRA is the Ductile Iron Pipe Research Association, came together and put a lot of data together to come up with recommendations for corrosion control of ductile iron pipe. It went back and forth for maybe 5 years. It was proprietary to Corpro for a few years. And then I want to say in 2014 or so, they released it to the public. So anybody can use this. It's on their website. And it really is a risk-based approach to corrosion control. So there's a consequence and a likelihood. So those are kind of the two factors. When you get consequence, we have thoughts of, how big is the pipe? How deep is the pipe buried? Is there alternate water supplies, or is this just a single line, feeding a hospital of some sorts, right? So that's where a consequence would get a higher point count. And then the likelihood side is more related to the soil, right? That's what we're concerned about, is aggressive soils. And there's point counts on as well. I'm not going to go through each and every parameter here. I only have a few more minutes. But one of the main points would be soil resistivity. It's one of the major factors or parameters of soil that we look for to determine if it's corrosive or not. So you can see on the right, there's a point count there. So 30 points goes to resistivity versus some of the other factors have quite a lot of less point count. And you take soil samples along the right of way, or maybe there's some historic data, and it can give you a great indication about how aggressive the soil is. And then from there, you add up all your parameters, add up all your points, and you wind up somewhere on this chart. So there's 5 categories here. I tend to look at it as 3. But number 1, being standard pipe, we know that not all soil is corrosive. We know that we have ductile iron in the ground for decades and decades. We know we've got gray iron in the ground for over 100 years, over 150 years. So there's quite a lot of evidence to support that not all soil is corrosive to ductile iron. As you move on, we go into number 2, which would be VBio. The DDM only covers VBio as a recommendation. And then number 3 would be joint bonding, which is not a recommended practice for us. For me, US Pipe, there's a lot more consequences that could come with bonding the joints, ductile iron. And then 4 and 5 would be, the severe categories where that's zinc and VBio in combination. So here's the recommendations. You can see, like I said, number 1 is standard pipe. 2, we have VBio. Number 3 is VBio with joint bonds as a possibility, as an option. And then we have 4 and 5, which are very similar in my mind. We're actually talking about combining those two sections just because they're so close. The only difference on there, as you can see, is a product called Life Extension Cathodic Protection. I've not seen that been used in practice at all anywhere. So we're probably going to scratch that off. But for now, that's what the recommendations are. And you can see there's an or there. So it's zinc and VBio or VBio in cathodic protection. So that's an option. Cathodic protection, it can work, absolutely. Tanks, pipelines, you name it. But the biggest factor there is monitoring the system. I speak with a lot of utilities around the United States, and monitoring and maintenance of cathodic protection systems is often lacking. Some of the bigger cities can support it, but it can often be forgotten. And then you have, an asset that if you break a wire, anode gets depleted, you name it, you have an asset in the ground with no corrosion protection, right? So it's kind of a higher risk there versus more of a passive system we like to look at or think about with zinc and VBio. So with that, that's all that I have pretty quickly as a 15-minute presentation. There's quite a lot of content there, but I appreciate the time. So any questions, please.
Thank you, Connor. That I think it's helpful for a lot of us that use ductile iron pipe, Glendale included. Obviously this presentation wasn't, although US Pipe would prefer, it's not to persuade anybody from one product to the other. It's more to give us an understanding, those that use ductile iron pipe, on what the different methods are. And the DDM, I think, is a great tool. And that's available where? On DIPRA's website?
Yes, it's on DIPRA's website. I want to say all the pipe manufacturers probably have it on their website as well. But I think a simple Google search of design decision model or DIPRA, but it's definitely on DIPRA's website.
And
Absolutely.
one of the good things we have going for us is majority of our pipe in the valley is bedded in ABC, more of an inert material. That's helpful. Doesn't necessarily always help with the electrolysis if we have something that's not wrapped properly, which we crossed that bridge last year with the wrap and tap detail. But corrosion protection is always a concern, especially for us because we use so much DIP and we have so much in the ground. When we replace transite, we replace it with DIP. So Glendale was looking at a railroad crossing, and we were looking at belt and suspenders to try to get longevity out of that DIP, and considering a zinc coated inside of that host or inside of that carrier pipe, that casing pipe. But that's, part of the DDM, right? So with that though, I'll open it up for any questions from committee members.
I have 2 questions. One, what does the hazmat look on the zinc coated pipe? Is it any safety concerns there?
I'm not aware of any. No.
That's a good question though,
Yeah.
Paul, because if you're cutting pipe and whatnot, obviously you'd want to wear your PPE, but
They always like to do something to the guy in the ditch, that nobody ever talks about until 20 years later. And it's like, oh, CAD bolts. You guys were putting on CAD bolts.
asbestos concrete pipe.
Right. No, none that I'm
I forgot
aware
the
of.
other question. Oh, the cost.
Yeah, of course. Of course, I'm not.
Comparative
Canada.
to having to buy the wrap or, as a contractor, we just want to get the pipe put in the ground. We don't want any wrapping pipe up. It's just laborious and dangerous.
Well, I think the polywrap specification, whether it's VBio or standard black polywrap, and the zinc coating, that's all going to be handled on the design end.
Yeah.
So when the contractor gets the plans, they would be, pricing accordingly. I don't think there's too many field decisions made. Hey, let's go ahead and just try this. That would be done early on.
Well, it's just like, transite pipe, we had to get rid of it because they claimed that it caused cancer, which I don't believe is a true claim. And then it doesn't corrode. I've dug up transite pipe 80 years old. It looks like it's brand new. I've dug up 72-year-old ductile pipe in Parker, Arizona that is not polywrap that look brand new.
And
So
that's
it's
gonna have a
just-
lot to do
A
with
lot of
soil
times the
condition.
soil is just, if
Yeah.
the soil isn't a city.
And that's
I've
where the
dug up pipe
DDM
in
comes in.
Chandler where you could push your thumb through the pipe because it was in the city ground, so anyway. Thanks for the demonstration.
Ryan, did you have a question?
It's more just on the owner side, because I mean, we see a lot of, I don't know the DDM and what the engineers, like you said, on the design side, but it seems like they just always default to polywrap, whether it's corrosive soil or not.
Yeah.
Right? They just say, okay, well, just polywrap it must be better, so let's just go ahead and do that.
Well, and that is the recommendation, right? Whether or not the soil's corrosive or not, it's still the recommendation from
That's because
different.
I fell on it though.
Yeah, the argument that is always brought up and made to me is that usually the cost, and I know I'm probably not going to be talking about cost here, right? But
Well-
relative cost of pipe material versus installation and construction is usually a smaller portion. And I guess the argument would be if you're going to spend a whole bunch of money putting an asset in the ground, maybe a less expensive, cheap insurance kind of a idea to get as long of a life as we can. It's my goal to have our water infrastructure last as long as we can. And through what we've seen in our testing, the cost is relatively small, I think,
Back to AC pipe. It lasts
Well,
forever.
well, to
But
your
that's
point, the cost of the actual polywrap, but as you guys were discussing on the sidebar earlier, some inspector out there sees a pinhole and you're removing all the polywrap and putting it back on. That's where the cost becomes a problem. And the cumbersome that Paul just talked about, we want to get it in the ground. You guys alluded to some contractors pre-wrapping it before it goes in the ground, which you guys don't encourage. And all that's done to expedite the construction cost of putting it in the ground. And I understand your side if it's a requirement with corrosive soil, but if they're just doing it just to do it, you're just adding cost, and it's just not the cost of the wrap. It's the installation that's
And it's
holding it up.
dangerous. I've seen a lot of injuries fooling around with that crap. Lots.
So that wasn't a question, that was a comment,
That
but
was
we
a comment.
appreciate it. We
I like the
appreciate it.
comment, you know that.
Yep. Anybody else, any other committee members have any questions for the US Pipe Group? So, all right, well, I will end this with, I've dug up and witnessed what happens when pipe's not polywrapped properly and it leaks. We have a lot of it in the ground. We'll continue using polywrap without testing soil and with testing soil. So it's still a BMP for us, or a best management practice. And I would encourage others to consider it. All right, moving into items proposed to be heard and cases under consideration. This is new cases for 2026, agenda item number 5. Case 26-01 is the miscellaneous corrections. We have one existing one that was A for the cadmium bolt plating, but then there's a couple new ones. We have B, C, and D. I'm not familiar. I haven't had a chance to go over B, C, and D, but who brought B to our attention?
This is Gordon, but the case was brought to our attention from Phoenix, from Rob, who basically just noticed as he was going through their supplements that on their supplement, and this is a section that was based on the Phoenix supplement, this should have had the letter E as a separate paragraph, and then the ones that follow should be relettered. So it's just a formatting issue.
Okay. Thank you, Gordon. And then C?
This one was brought forward by Jim Badowich. This was discussed in the Water Sewer Working Group. And the idea is to add the score lines to the concrete collar on this detail, similar to the, I think it's 422. I can't remember exactly the detail for the manhole cover.
Yeah, I know we've been going through and correcting a lot of those and adding them. These are across multiple details. Thank you, Gordon. And the last one for D.
this last one, I noticed as I was going through the spec that a couple of these ASTMs were out of date or incorrect. And I brought this to the attention of our outside right-of-way group. And I think Peter can give an update on his research and this update.
So the, excuse me, thank you, Gordon. The existing, section for landscaping identified a specific set of designations for the, basically filter fabric to be utilized. The recommendation was, we already had in section 796, we had filter fabric requirements. So upon discussion with the group, we decided, why don't we just reference the section of the table in 796 and avoid having to duplicate requirements for filter fabric. It was already in the standards.
So all that scratched language is already,
That's what was in there now, and said, why don't we just reference the section of the table?
okay. We sure we want to have that as a miscellaneous correction?
That's a good question.
I think where the question comes from is, as long as all the scratched language is included in the table, then it would be redundant language. Is that correct? Am I following this?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't quite the exact same because it was actually referencing an asphalt material, an asphaltic filter fabric, which after discussion with the landscape architects, they said, well, that's what we just grabbed. When they looked at table 796-2, they said, oh, that's the better material. That's the more appropriate material.
Okay.
So that was Wayne talking about in his reference back. So they recommended that instead of using the one that be used like for pavement filter fabric or pavement fabric, just go to straight filter fabric.
Okay, well,
So it is a change in that sense. It's not the
Yeah.
exact same material. It is a change in material.
let's leave it miscellaneous corrections for right now, and then
We can always make a case.
yeah, exactly. And we'll see if there's any
Forward.
opposition to it
Yeah.
being a miscellaneous correction. Of course, I'll get with Jose on it and with Chair on it, and we'll see if we want to move it into a case or not.
That would be fine either way. It stands, it's pretty much self-standing the way it is now. We can't just leave language in there now because the ASTM, one ASTM does exist, the other was a typo.
Right, thank you, Peter. All right, we'll move into agenda item number 6. This is case 26-03, revised curb and gutter details 220 -1, 220-2. So the latest and greatest came out last month on the 22nd, and this was just to present the details, type A, type C, type D, type E, and type F, with the horizontal lines running parallel to one another, and clarify the measurements using those parallel lines as reference points. Nothing technical has changed on this drawing other than clarifying the notes and or clarifying the measurements and moving them into different locations. Now, where I was at with this is in the blue. The question comes in, you look at where it says remove sidewalk note question mark on the lower blue note. There's a little depiction of a very steep angled sidewalk on the back there, and it notes sidewalk. And then there was the same depiction on the upper one where it says sidewalk note was removed. So I just wanted to get an idea from the group here, from the committee members, whether we should just go ahead and clean that up and pull that out of there on both details. I don't see a reason for it, being that sometimes we have landscape back there, sometimes we have sidewalk. I just thought it would kind of clean it up just a little bit. But those are the updates, and with that, I'll open it up to the committee for discussion.
Mr. Vice Chair, I agree with removing the note.
Okay, so it'll look a lot like the top one, without the red cloud and the blue writing. So there was a measurement that changed, and it was because it was corrected. Which one was it? I believe it was mountable curb and gutter type F. It called out 1 inch where the red line is, and it called out 1.25 inches on the bottom. But the trouble with that was that if both lines are on the same plane or perfectly parallel to each other, through default, if it's 1.25 inches on the bottom, it's gonna be 1.25 inches on the top. But I think a lot of that is because the confusion came in because that red line that's drawn through type F, the upper parallel line, was not necessarily intended to identify that measurement. I guess what I'm getting at is that's what was causing the confusion, is because it didn't go all the way through. So you didn't know where its pivot point was. You didn't know if it was perfectly parallel to the bottom lower line. But I hope everybody's had an opportunity to look through this. I know it came in mid-month. It is up for possible action the way it's drawn right now. I'd have to remove the blue and the little red cloud. But I think, well, first, let me see if any of our committee members have any questions or comments on it besides Ryan.
When you're removing the sidewalk note on type D, are you also going to be removing the dashed lines? Because those look kind of strange at that angle anyway.
Yeah, they were a mirror image up on top on the upper type C. It was the same thing, and I pulled it out, and that was one of the questions I wanted answered, was should I just remove it from both?
So this is Roy from the city of Scottsdale. Would we want to do the same thing for the type B? B as in boy, ribbon curb, the call out for the parkway or sidewalk on the left? Just take that call out as well as the dashed line in the bottom there.
The dash line on the bottom. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and leave it up to, well, and really that parkway, I know when we do our parkways, we like to leave them recessed no more than 1 inch, which there's no measurement called out in there. But yeah, great point, Roy. Any other committee members have any questions? Anybody haven't had an opportunity to look at this detail? I think for the committee members, I'm gonna leave this up unless I don't even want to entertain at this point, a motion to vote. Let's let this set this month the way it is. I'll get a cleaned up CAD version on it and get that in front of the committee as well. Let's plan on putting it up for action next month.
Hey guys, it's Rob Godwin for Jim. Just want to bring something up. You may be aware some contractors this past year are starting to pour integral, we've got integral curb gutter sidewalk with the roll curb. Now they're doing it with vertical curb. So now we've got monolithic vertical curb and sidewalk. I don't know if that's a place I have a note here or not, or that should be a different detail at some point, but when you have the sidewalk drawn the way it is, you're looking at 4 inches thick. But when it's poured monolithically, it's more like 6 inches thick, and it tapers up to 4 inches.
Well, I guess my question would be, is that a problem or a concern? Are you guys seeing any warranty issues or any premature failure due to that?
No, I mean, personally, I think it's better to do that. Streets Department doesn't like it. They've got to get bigger saws where they got to cut out the sidewalk portion. But I'm just saying the way that it's drawn, the way it's drawn here, when you show sidewalk, it would be 4 inches thick if it's poured separately. If it's more monolithically, it's going to be thicker.
Yeah, gotcha. I mean, I'm not opposed to thicker, right? If I don't have
Oh,
to
sure.
fill.
Right, but I'm just talking about the way that it's drawn. I mean, if you note that the sidewalk's there, um, it's gonna be different if it's monolithic or if it's poured separately.
Well, what I already heard from two other committee members is let's just pull the reference of the sidewalk out.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Okay, you'd agree with that?
Yeah, sure.
All right, like I said, we'll keep this up for action for next month, and I'll get a cleaned up CAD version since I'm not getting any opposition to it and getting some good positive feedback. All right, let's move into agenda item number 7. This is case 26-04 to revise the section 602 to include the CC FRPM. That's a mouthful. This one's brought by Arvid. Do we have Arvid online today?
I don't think Arvid is online, nor is Jim Badowich. I did get an update to his case. The only thing that changed is based on our discussion at the committee last month about the different options for the pipe support, whether you're using pipe supports or railings or wedges. He wrote a couple options, option 1 and option 2. They're very similar. That's trying to describe what the preferences and options are, but they're just formatted differently. So it's not intended to duplicate it. It's more like take a look at these two options and tell me which one you think is better, or if you have any other suggestions or changes you'd want to make. So
it's not necessarily include each option in the publication, but rather for the committee to choose an option. Is that what I'm hearing, Gordon?
right. Yeah, it's similar information, both options. It's just what do you think makes it clearer?
Got you. This one I haven't had a chance to dive into either yet. I was hoping that Arvid was online. I'll have to get into the next water sewer working group. Catch up on it. So this one was for information and discussion, was not up for action. So I'll open up any questions or comments from committee members. Centrifugally cast fiberglass reinforced polymer mortar pipe casing. Okay, hearing nothing from committee members, we're going to move. Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, sorry about that, Mr. Chair. Roy, City of Scottsdale, just a suggestion possibly on the for that option 1 and option 2 would be, since is referencing the carrier pipe support, maybe that becomes a 602.5.1 carrier pipe support, where it has a subtitle for whichever option is chosen, that it's understood by all that are reading it, that it's specifically for the support of the carrier pipe.
Yeah, thank you for that, Roy. I think we need to take that into consideration. Yeah, placement, and then you would have a subsection or a separate one for support.
I think in the working group discussion, Arvid was hoping to get some feedback on this part and kind of make a determination which one to go with, and then have it up for possible action next month. So if you have any final thoughts on it or preferences, maybe you could forward them to me or Arvid.
Yeah, I'd encourage all committee members to run through it, and especially those that are subject matter experts or have a lot of experience in this with this application to, put pencil to paper, make some comments and get them over to Arvid, Chair Jose Rodriguez, and Gordon.
I apologize. I just logged in too. If there was any questions I could answer.
Did you catch the comment on carrier pipe support subsection there for 602.5.1 is what was being suggested?
Yes. And I actually had a more current draft that I just sent to Mr. Gordon, that we could look at after our last working group meeting. That's a little bit cleaned up and reduced down. I don't know if Gordon can pull that up real quick. I just emailed it to him.
We'll get that up. Has that been up? Was that one updated on the site, Gordon? Okay. Well, we'll get it updated on the MAG website and get it recorded there.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely took the feedback from the working group and we really tried to just thin it down to be as descriptive and accurate as possible, of the two different options. And then have a collector paragraph at the bottom that talks more about the spacer, the grade spacers if they're selected.
Gordon just pulled it up now.
Yep, there it is. And again, we're talking specifically just about gravity carrier pipes inside casing. We're not affecting anything to do with pressurized carrier pipes, because that pretty standardly is using casing spacers in most applications.
Okay, would there still be a need for another 0.1 section, you think? I mean, I kind of like that idea.
It's completely up to you guys. The way that this is now presented, it's cleaner. And where you can see the old language that's stricken out below the red, that's what used to read. We've just expanded it just a little bit because we do have two distinct gravity carrier pipes that go through casings in the industry. We have belled and flush bell, and they both are unique. And so that's why we did the flush bell, the belled, and then the closing paragraph, that third red paragraph there talks about the lead time on the grade spacers if those are selected.
Okay, thank you, Arvid.
Yeah. And I always defer to Gordon when it comes to the numbering if he believes there needs to be something. But the whole 602.5 carrier pipe placement is all typically one category. And Gene, to your comment that we had last month about the brick and mortar, that is in there. The bulkheads consisting of brick and mortar or concrete shall consist of an end casing. Bulkhead shall be a minimum of 8 inches thick. Alternate closures may be submitted for brick and mortar. We don't mention the rubber end seal, but we could put that in there if you guys wanted to add that also. But it needs to go over a brick and mortar bulkhead or a bulkhead of some sort that's structural.
Well, the rubber end seal, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's an industry standard regardless, right?
It's an industry option. It's not necessarily a standard. It's always been perceived to be something that ups the level of water tightness. But in many instances, it gets damaged during the backfill process because it's relatively weak and it wasn't originally designed to be in the earth. It was designed to be out of the earth. And so it's just been adopted as an in-earth way to provide an extra layer. It's why you and I talked about this. EPCOR went to the bituminous coating on the bulkhead was their preferred method for increasing water tightness.
Okay, the Flex Seal.
Yes, yeah, Flex Seal. Exactly, we talked about that. We actually use Flex Seal.
Mr. Vice Chair, Arvid, just a question for you on that third paragraph in red. I'm finding the wording just a little bit odd for me for a construction specification. That the way it's phrased currently is that pea gravel can be filled, or the annular space can be filled with pea gravel to lock it in. So I guess that's the first part. Maybe that's okay, but it's ambiguous whether are we supposed to do that? Are we not supposed to do it? Is it optional? It sounds like because it's saying can, it's optional. It's not required. But the second part of the sentence is the one that really gets me, which is where it tries to justify the reason why pea gravel is in there. And typically a specification doesn't try to justify, you know, why it's allowed or not allowed. It just states that you can or you can't, or you should or you must, or whatever. So the part about it can always be vacuumed out to address any capacity size increases, that's the part of the sentence that definitely feels out of place for me in a construction specification.
Yeah,
Fully understood. Yeah, during the working group meetings and through other discussions with other agencies, there's a reality that when we build the rail system through a casing to carry a flush belled carrier pipe through that casing, that is not an engineer designed railing system. It's a system that's put in there to carry it with the intent of a lifespan only as long as needed until the casing is filled with pea gravel. And over the years, there's been some resistance to pea gravel, but as time went on and it was recognized that it could be vacuumed out, and that actually has been done in a couple cases now where it's been removed, and then a new product line, an increased sized product line was installed. It's just goes down the path of, once you know what you know, you have a better understanding of it. So the intent here is really more so informative. After the discussions in the working group, it was, let's try and get some language in there of some sort that provides more of an educational understanding than more of a specification. So to your point, it's a little bit odd because it doesn't follow the standard go, no go, do this, don't do that. And it's also, I think Jose made a comment that there was a concern about the word shall, and so we use the word can instead to provide some flexibility. So again, it comes down to what you all want to agree upon is what we'll do, obviously. And so I'm just taking a stab at what I've been presented with from various comments, given that it needs to be, because it's such a unique topic. When it comes to this specific item, it was felt like it needed to be a little bit more broad, which is what you saw on the original draft that was just presented. And then this one that I just now did an update on recently as of the last working group, it was nicked down to this amount now, and it can be changed depending on how you see fit to make it work.
I think in 10 years, when somebody asks the question, why do we put this language in? We're going to all rely on Peter and his notes.
I brought the boxes home, but
Yeah. So again, it's unique in the sense that it is a little bit more explanatory than other languages have been, but it's what we've been getting. It's what I've been getting feedback on, is because once there's an understanding of the unique nature of what's attempting to be done here, it's not an everyday thing. And in most cases, I'm just going to kind of speak openly, most people don't deal with this day in, day out. They deal with it once or twice, 3 or 5, every couple of years they might deal with it, kind of thing. So it kind of gets forgotten. And so it's really there just to help provide an educational understanding of why the language is in there.
Go ahead. Just some thinking on how this could be worded. Is this something that would then be determined by on the plans or specifications for the project if pea gravel is going to be used? Then we should probably say, if specified on, if
it needs to be addressed in the
if pea
plan.
gravel is specified on the plans, this shall be done this way. I think getting the word can or may gets for a contractor gets really tough. Yeah, I think it should be specified somewhere, and if so, this is how you shall do it. In the sense of adding in reasoning behind that, there are some ways you can do that, but I think to me that's the bigger problem I've got, which is the can word in there.
Yeah, once Ryan pointed that out, I see your point, Ryan. I do. And I see Arvid's point too, is he's trying to say, hey guys, you have, you're future proofed with this system. We'll have to discuss this a little more at the working group. I'm gonna go through it myself, Arvid, and see if I can help you out a little bit on it and
Yes,
hopefully.
please do. And Ryan, any verbiage or suggestions in language, please send them to me or to Gordon so that we can review them and really tear them up in the working group, because that's where this all gets really vetted out, is there.
Yeah, for sure. Arvid, do you have anything else, or can I open it up to the
No,
committee?
sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Arvid. Any other committee members have any comments or questions to this case? I know it's fresh on the eyes here, but just the small discussion we've had in the last 5 minutes included. If you have any questions or comments, please jump in.
Chair, I have both a question and a comment. My
Yes.
question for Arvid is, are you still allowing the custom stands to be made as an option? Because I don't see them there.
The second sentence in the third paragraph there is stating that if they elect to use grade spacers, there's a time that needs to be considered. We consistently see spacers called out for gravity feed applications just in the last couple of weeks on projects that we've been bidding. And what we choose to do internally is we reach out to the general contractors that are bidding the job and ultimately to the engineer if we can get that connection, and we inform them of the reality that we can do exactly what you're calling out in the design specs, but just know that there's this time factor that probably needs to be, it needs to be taken into consideration so that they're not caught off guard. And that oftentimes opens up the door to the discussion of, well, what other ways can we do this to minimize the time delay? So that's what that language is there. Again, it's my third stab at trying to put something in there, to Ryan's point, that's not just hyperbole. It's trying to provide information on what the industry is currently in and at. And to his point, in 5 years, it will be different. So it may not be good to put a timeline in there because, but historically, it's always taken 3 to 5 weeks to get grade spacers, and now we're running into the 6 to 10 week window because of the demand for spacers is going up.
And Arvid, to that point, that's why that timeline, I don't think it's appropriate to have the timeline in there. I know what you're trying to do, and I appreciate that. I think more awareness of potential long lead items, something more general, might be a better fit.
Understood. Okay. Well, we'll play with that language for sure at the working group, and I'll make another stab at some ideas. I'm not at all versed in AI, so I haven't run it through any of those engines out there that maybe some of you could run it through and see what they come back with for ideas.
One other thing that I noticed as we're discussing this is that, and this may be an AI mistake, but the first time it says spaces instead of spacers. So that might
Oh yeah, just so we're clear, this is zero AI. This is all our brain. So it's very archaic in that regard. It's language. Yeah, I'm not super versed at using that, and anyway, we can do that later on for sure. But quite frankly, Gordon, you've always been the AI guy for me, so I know that you'll fix it ultimately in the end.
And the CAD guy and the bottom.
Yes. Yeah. So okay. Well, again, any and all recommendations, suggestions, please send them to us, because this is a big issue in the industry, and we do need to try and get the engineering community to understand that when they call something out, it needs to be understood what they're calling out and the impact it's going to have on the project.
My comment was very simple. Since you put in the kind of the subtitle there for gravity carrier pipe, I don't think we really need the numbers, because if we do put numbers on that, we should also put subheads on the bulkheads and the dry utilities and other things that are not related to the gravity carrier pipe.
Okay. Yeah. again, I'll defer to you guys on that.
And this is Roy, City of Scottsdale. I agree with Gordon. After reading all of this, the paragraphs above and the paragraphs below, the new information that's added deal with spacing as well. So to try to specifically identify the new stuff as support, I don't think is good. So I withdraw my comment.
Yeah, let's still run that through the working group though, just to double check, make sure everybody gets a chance to look at it here and at the working group. And if we want to subcategorize it, but it is a relatively small section. All right, any other questions? Go ahead, Arvid.
No, I said I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from committee members? All right, hearing none, we're going to move into agenda item number 8, case 26-06. This is for new detail 160-1 for the 6-foot chain link fence gate. Rename and renumber the existing detail to 160-2. This is brought by Marty. Marty, do you want to provide an update on this case?
Yes, I can. This is Marty from DOT. Okay, so we wanted to create a detail without the barbed wire. The existing one has barbed wire, so that was the reason for the update. So as you scroll down to the I can provide the update. I think get the latest. The comment last time was to add a gate clearance. Bottom of the gate. There you go. Okay, so see note 8. So we added that note 8 and the comment to the to provide a 2 to 2.5 inch clearance under the gate, and gate can move freely. I thought that was a good comment. So there's no issue with that. But so we didn't make that update. I don't know if anybody had a chance to take a look at that or okay with that update. And if they have any other comments or questions regarding this these details. Other than that, I'm good. I don't know. So, and the only thing we did is that we wanted a detail that did not include just barbed wire, but the existing detail that's on showing the barbed wires. So we just revised the detail number and naming.
It looks like you added the note 8 on this one as well.
Yes, yeah. So we did it on both details. Kind of a lot of information is duplicated for each one, but it was two. One of the thoughts was to if we could just say optional for the barbed wire, but we thought that might be too convoluted. There's a lot of stuff with respect to that top bar for the barbed wire. So I mean, I don't know if anybody had any thoughts on that, but
Well, that was going to be my question, Marty, is maybe I missed that at the last meeting if we had that discussion. Why wouldn't we just use the one detail and note it as
optional?
Yeah, as optional. Barbed wire, can be used with or without barbed wire.
We could go back and discuss that internally here and see if we can get that to go. We just thought that might be too much information, but too many points being called out to be optional. But optional this or optional that. But we can specify that like a note to saying that optional that the barbed wire is optional. So we can go back.
You start getting into those vertical posts. I see what you're saying. For the optional, you have to extend the vertical posts up so you can tie the barbed wire to it.
And yeah, and that was the primary reason of doing the two different details. And we did look at the ADOT details. Now ADOT has two different details for barbed wire and non-barbed wire and other areas. So.
All right. Thank you for the update. Any committee members have any questions or comments to this case? Marty, if we're not hearing any more comments, and we run this and we don't make any changes, can you provide a clean version of this so we can put it on up for action?
I think this actually is a clean version. It's
I was gonna say, yeah, this is actually clean.
Oh, that is the clean one? Okay.
Yeah, so, and, I can run it by the team and find out what would it take to make it, just optional. And then, but yeah, as discussed, I think be too many optional points to call out, so.
Okay, well, let's put it up for, I got confused with having the initial detail I was going through them. I see what you're saying now. It is the clean version. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, Marty. Let's put it up for action for the next meeting. Are you comfortable with that, Marty?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, let's do that. And then that'll give committee members this whole month to review it and provide any comments prior to the next month's meeting.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions from committee members on this item? All right. Hearing none, we're gonna move into agenda item number 9. This is case 26-07 for updating the street sign detail. I know our team, Glendale's team, has provided quite a bit of feedback. Warren's not here, but we do have our substitutes that'll help us with any of the modifications, recent modifications and changes. Floor is yours.
Thank you. There's at least 8 different agencies that have a detail for the square post or type D, including Chandler. So we've tried to consolidate as many as possible on that third sheet on the detail. We still have a little bit more scroll down a little bit more. There you go. We still have a little bit more drafting to do for the sign mounting, and we'll also need to add a detail for the U-channel sign connections. But we've tried to capture the different agencies' bolt placement for their square posts as much as possible in this detail.
Yeah, there was a couple different options with that corner bolt and all that. Some stuff I hadn't seen yet. The different mounting styles. You guys really incorporated a lot into these.
Again, we still have some more drafting to do, so.
But it does meet our needs at Glendale. It does capture those needs. Will the street sign base 131-3 type B and C sign mounting on the bottom left-hand corner, that's the additional drafting you're talking about?
Correct. We just put a snip in there for now to give everyone an idea of what we're working on.
Perfect. All right. Open it up to committee members for any comments or questions. I know a lot of people have been giving Warren feedback as it's been going.
Mr. Chairman, I did have one question. So each of the details have the same title to them, the street sign base. Would this be the thought, this is continuing information from page to page?
Correct.
Okay. Typically, we try to get it to where each, if it's a -1 or -2, -3, has a different name associated with it. So there may be some way to consolidate specific information on one, the next, and the next.
Okay. And we can,
Contemplate that, just makes it,
no,
when you look at
understood.
it up, it's easier.
So you slightly modify that title a little bit, huh? I never caught,
If you look at
Forgot
most of the details, you don't see
Yeah.
the title on each.
For example, you could make it street sign bases type A, B, and C for the first one and so on. And maybe the last one would be mounting detail, street sign mounting details or something like that.
great observation.
We can do that.
When you look at the index, you're trying to find these things, you go, what are these three?
Well, yeah, now it dawns on me that,
You look at indexes. you're
I
not
didn't
paying
put 2 and
attention
2
to it.
together until you brought it up.
So the first one could be street sign base type A, B, and C.
Yep.
Third one could be type D and placement, and then the third one could be anchor assembly and mounting types.
Yeah, it could be as simple as that.
Yeah, when you look it up in the index, it would make it a little easier.
I said, I remember going through this about 20 years ago, trying to figure out how to do this. So I'm really happy somebody's done this. We were trying to look at these ones going, how do we get rid of all of these different agency ones and consolidate it? You guys did a great job. This is fantastic.
Yeah, you put a lot of work in.
Warren's been working very, very hard, so we will pass that on.
All right, back open to the committee members for any comments or questions on this case.
Mr. Chairman, as you go through the different details of the cities, are you checking to see if they're all in compliant with the MUTCD, the latest version of MUTCD and the Arizona supplement to the MUTCD?
Yes, the one discrepancy is that the MUTCD defines measurements from the face of the sign to the near edge of the face, the edge closest to the roadway, rather than the center of the post. Some agencies call it out to the center of the post. The reality is when you go to install it in the field, there might be some variation based on field conditions. So Warren says he's open to any feedback in regards to how we want to define that in the detail. Maybe we include a minimum exception for areas where the sidewalk width is severely limited or where existing utility poles are already close to the curb line. The offset can be reduced to perhaps a minimum of a foot from the face of curb.
So you're talking about placement, or Warren is, I was just looking at the breakaway details on the ADOT ones, because I help with the ADOT ones, and some of the the U channel, and it doesn't look like it, some of them don't have the breakaway bases that's required by the MUTCD. So I'm just asking, I haven't gone to the extent Warren has, but as a comment, I would just make sure that they're in compliance with the Arizona supplement to the MUTCD.
Yeah, the breakaways in particular, but I'm glad you elaborated on the sign spacing off the back of the curb or back of sidewalk.
Mhm.
I do like the idea of achieving that minimum distance, having that minimum distance. And then I know our guys, they always want to review the layout.
Mhm.
And that's where in the note, the minimum distance or approved by the engineer, reviewed and approved by the engineer, maybe something like that.
Mhm.
A good point, Brian, though, to make sure that all the signposts, because I don't know if type A does meet the MUTCD. No. I know ours do because we use the square type D for the breakaway.
We'll verify that. in the
Yeah,
next
thank
meeting.
you. Yeah, or even the pipe, if the pipe meets it, because if it doesn't meet it, why even have it in there?
Yeah.
Is the type A, B, and C, did you find, other municipalities are using the A, B, and C, or just that was kind of the default, which was in MAG?
I'll have to clarify that with Warren. I believe that there are agencies that use it. I just don't know which one it is off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm curious because there is not a real designated breakaway on those.
That leaves a thought that maybe part of this would be, or if there are agencies doing this, providing those recommendations back to that agency and finding out maybe those should be in their supplements.
That's right. That's right, especially if they're not meeting the MUTCD.
Yeah.
It gives you a little bit of
Little homework.
work. We sent you home with something. All right, any other questions or comments from committee members? All right, we do have another agenda item, number 10, which is case 26-08 to revise the section 632 and detail 399 for tracer wire installation. This one too is brought by Chandler. You want to provide an update?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, so my name's Katie. I'm one of the engineers that's working on this case with Warren. So the main updates that we've made so far is mostly just to the spec section. We're still working on some of those CAD details to actually update the detail. But the main things that we did, so this, and then Gordon, does it have like the marked up document below? Perfect. Okay, so some of the main updates we've made is just making it more consistent with how we're calling out the connectors. So using the main line to service connector throughout the document. We also added an option to exclude the above ground access boxes for sewer services. So if you'll look on, I believe it's on the second page, we've just added that you may not need to do it if mandated by the agency. So it is up to the agency for that. We also added an option to exclude the grounding rod, as that was something that came in our working group. Because most locating services bring their own temporary grounding rods. So depending on the agency, you can opt to not put the grounding rods in. And then the other main update that we made was to the testing requirements. So something that we added was just a little bit of a definition of what continuity testing is, as opposed to the line tracing testing. And then something else that came about is as the spec stands right now, it requires full tracing of all of the lines, but that could be a very large commitment depending on how big the project is. And so we added a section where, and it's on the very last page. Oh, perfect. So the second line down of that red, so the contractor shall perform line trace testing along the full length or directed by the agency. So you can opt to do 15% or whatever you choose to make sure that that tracer wire actually works. So we should have an update to the detail by the next meeting. We just weren't able to get it in for this one.
That is a lot.
We tried to make updates depending on all the conversations that we've had in the working group. So trying to add a lot more flexibility is what we're hearing.
Well, and I mean, just the case in general, to eat that elephant one bite at a time. I mean, we got the first case over, but look at how much, could you imagine if we tried to incorporate all this over the past 2 years, we probably wouldn't have got over the finish line with anything. So I commend your guys' tenacity, that's for sure.
It is a bigger thing than we thought we were taking on, but we've just finished a project where we just did all the line tracing, the testing, and it was very successful. And we have the second phase of that project with a new contractor. So we're making some of these updates in-house and we're seeing how that can help.
What was the feedback from the contracting side with all the tracer wire? Was their minds just blown that we're putting all this copper clad wire in the ground, or?
It was a lot. Haven't really had to do the testing portion of it before. So they could just kind of like put the wire in the ground and then show that they've installed the wire and then they didn't have to test it. But the fact that we had them do 100% full tracing and they had paved over everything before they tested. So if they had just backfilled it, it wouldn't have been that much. They could have just dug it back up and seen some of the issues with some of the connectors or some of the wire, because we had some wire looping and we had some connectors that weren't fully connected. We also had some bare copper wire showing outside of the connectors. So it was a lot of additional work that they didn't prepare for.
Cutting new asphalt and whatnot. So just out of curiosity, was that land development or capital improvement project?
It was capital improvement. So it was a water main replacement project.
Was it a
And then
CMAR?
Yes. And this new one is a low bid. So
So
phase 2.
Well, with the CMAR, this stuff should have been was probably brought up on the front end.
It was, so
Methods start coming in there.
yeah, it was kind of like we gave them a heads up because the tracer wire hadn't been published yet in MAG. So we gave them all the details that this was going to be new. And so they incorporated it, but they weren't that familiar with it.
So they're going through the growing pains with you guys on it.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
But they were a good partner for us. So
Good. Keep them around another year.
Mhm.
Thank you for those updates. It's a lot. Thank you for the update.
absolutely. If there's any questions, we're very open to feedback
Yeah.
and we're still working. So
Open it up to committee members if they've had an opportunity to review, mark up, and give any feedback to this case.
oh, don't let me off that easy. I want some
It's the
souvenirs.
Working
The
group that's
working
gonna
group
get
is
you.
where it comes.
I'll give you a comment. When you're doing CIP work or government work, government buildings, all that, that's one aspect of it because everybody can get things worked out. Then this thing spills over into the private sector and we get a big apartment complex or something and this gets shoved down our throat. It's
Mhm.
not even funny. People don't realize how not funny this is because.
No, you got to be in front of
It
it.
hasn't been well thought out before it was implemented. And so you're out there in the field going, well, my supplier don't even know what I'm supposed to buy,
Mhm.
you know, so this is good.
Oh yeah, no, we've heard it from all
Heard it.
the sides.
Yeah, can you feel the energy there?
Oh yeah, I came in about a year ago, so
Yeah,
got
and,
this.
and to Paul's point with, with the capital improvement projects, you generally have, a true partner, or you'd like to hope you have a true partner that you're contracting with, and you can work those things out, especially in a CMAR where you can get in front of it with the design engineer, which a large water line project should be a CMAR. But when you get into the land development, I could see where there's a lot of hurt feelings at the end of the day.
We heard a lot about.
So I think, and that's where it comes in on the plans early on the
Mhm.
plans to really reference all these details and these publications and be super thorough if you can get a good set of plans.
I think the biggest change with this is the grounding rods, because those grounding rods are not cheap. And if they need to be at every single termination, which means every single water meter. Yeah.
Yeah, drive costs. Well, and ultimately, the municipality will be, for the capital projects, they're gonna be paying for that. You pay for what you get,
Mhm.
right? On the land development side, it's kind of the cost of doing business and building, in the municipality, but that's getting a little off topic. Anyway, I'll open it up again to committee members for any feedback. All right, hearing none, we're gonna move into agenda item number 11, that's case 26-09, to revise the section 631 water taps and meter connections to include PEX A pipe, which is a cross-link polyethylene pipe. This one is also brought by Chandler. You guys are busy over there. Want to provide an update?
Tell me about it. So we've been working with this one in the working group as well. So we have made a couple updates, but we have industry backing on this one. We did notice that we did have one typo. So if you go to the next page down, I believe. I guess that one. Yeah, so that says 631.4. It should say 631.3.5, and then the one below it should be 6.1.3.6. So we did catch that after we turned it in, but that's, yep. That's the only update we have for
Yeah,
that
you
one.
get, you get sucked into all the language and then you miss something simple like that. I do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are those the only updates?
I believe so.
The language itself remained the same?
Yeah, Warren said we're just still working on it.
I'll open it up to committee members for any questions or comments on this case. All right, hearing none, we're going to move into outside right-of-way cases for 2026. Agenda item number 12. This is 26-A for new riprap spillway details. Peter, you want to provide an update?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we received comments from the last meeting here and we worked on this during the working group. I'm going to preface it by saying the versions that you have here have the revisions that is discussed prior to this point, but there's a revision going on that we're going to have, cross your fingers, ready for next meeting, which is for revision section 220, which is the riprap specification. And you'll see a presentation. I'll talk about that in a minute. Presentation was given to the working group on that. We had Wayne Cobank working on that extensively and trying to do an upgrade to it. Once that was realized that he had found a lot of new information, revised information for riprap itself, realized that it's going to impact this case in particular because, and I'll go into that in a minute. So what we may end up doing is not necessarily putting this one on hold, but trying to get 220 going, because I have a feeling that we can't really do this case without having the revision 220 done simultaneously. That we'd be getting a bit of cart before the horse if we tried to do this without having 220 corrected. So with that said, these do include changes that have been discussed. The changes are noted in red. And primarily that was dealing with, you'll see the bullet or the bubbled items and the additional language. And that was intended to identify how we'd be having to meld this in with revision to section 220. And so with that said, I really don't have much to talk about on this one because really we as a working group, we can either talk about that now or later when we have the working group meetings. The revision 220 that's being proposed is going to significantly impact this. The only thing I have not incorporated was some discussions we had in our April or May meeting here. And that was on, and again, it's going to tie again to 220 when we start talking about rounded and angular riprap and placement styles being either rough placement or smooth placement. And it's going to tie into how we would be allowing different slopes. For example, if you put something in dumped and rounded, you're going to have to put that on a flatter slope than something that is well placed and uniformly placed. You could put that on a
And angular.
and angular. Yeah. So all of those are going to impact this case at this point.
The trick is to place it on the correct slope so you don't undermine the rock,
Yes.
but yet you slow the water down.
So 220 changes are going to probably be more important than what we're doing right here because until we get 220 worked out, I'm recommending to the committee that this probably be put on hold until we get that figured out. Then this falls right on in with it. This also provides the cross sections for 220 that we don't have.
This is a 2026 case, so there really wouldn't be a reason to withdraw the case.
We
You
don't
keep
need
the case.
withdraw it right now. And our goal is for the July meeting to put the recommended revisions for 220 in.
I think that'll be pretty quick.
May or may not. We may have to push the whole thing to next year after we go through it. And again, we can talk about it here. Probably best talk about it in the working group
I
update,
would agree.
or new cases, either one of the two, where that's going to influence it probably very directly. I don't know because these are fairly significant changes to how we do it, as opposed to here's riprap and you put it in the ground. Now we're talking about the various types. And Wayne went through and looked at very specific cases where he took photos, he had photos of it. We had a whole presentation on it, which we could do when we have this case brought forward, 220 brought forward. Likely it would be good to have the full presentation given to the committee so you can kind of see the
Well,
importance of it.
I don't know if riprap has changed over time as far as the sizing and what's available now compared to
has
what
to be
you're taking
understand.
pictures of, 15, 20 years
Oh, no, these are
ago.
new installations.
Oh, okay.
Pictures. No, he was looking at new installations and not old stuff that's in the ground. He was actually showing construction installation
Gotcha.
photos, which started the whole thing rolling to that we probably need to. And again, I think when we're talking about here, spillway is really a small subset of all the riprap that gets placed. We're talking riprap on slopes, riprap on abutments, things like that, which this is just a small subset of that.
Yeah.
It's important, but it's really not where most of the riprap's placed. So I recommend we.
It is important because you are directing water to this area to convey the water.
Yeah.
And you really need to be fine tuned in your materials and your construction practices.
Yeah, I think the main thing we're going to make sure in this one is we do identify that likely we're going to want to have the spillway slope matching the slope that's being put on, because that is more often done than not. We rarely would see a spillway in these circumstances where the spillway is steeper or flatter than the actual slope that it's going on. So that's not being recognized here.
Then
yet.
you run into compound slopes.
Yeah, and then Nobody wants to do that, or the problem that was discussed last time,
But-
which is where we have vertical.
Out of curiosity, how many municipalities do you have in your working group? Just
I think
uh,
you may be able to answer.
more than 5?
I think we've got more of we've got City of Phoenix, you guys. I don't remember.
Where I'm going with this is if,
Tempe when they show up. Yeah.
okay,
that's-
good,
that's a
good.
number.
That's pretty good turnout. I was gonna encourage other municipalities to bring in, their
County-
people
county,
to help assist with the working group.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was kind of an eye opener when Wayne presented this, the riprap changes or suggested. It's really, they're out for discussion right now. And then the next meeting at the end of this month, we really got to try to hone in and hopefully we'll be able to get those refined. So July, we can present this, the 220 revisions as a case.
Gotcha.
I'm just recommending at this point, we probably not worry too much about this until we get the material and placement specification settled.
Well, while we have it here, let's open it up real quick and see if anybody has any comments or questions on the details and the case as it sits right now, understanding that we need to put our focus into 220. All right, hearing no comments or questions?
I got a couple questions
ahead,
real
Ryan.
quick though. If they start working on 220, does it stay in the outer right of way?
It's not out of right of way spec at that point. It's the 220.
So then what committee does it go to?
Well, it can be worked out. It can be sorted out in my opinion, it could be sorted out in the outside of right away working group, but the committee members are gonna vote on it. It would be a right away publication.
Yeah, I'm just questioning because as he said, we're circulating comments and I have got comments out to industry and I'm getting a lot of pushback on the substantial changes that they're making, right? This is, I mean, a lot. I mean, they're just saying, hey, does everybody know this is gonna,
This isn't flying even yet. I mean, that's why we need comments coming back.
and that's why I'm saying I gotta get industry involved. You asked about who's there from the cities. I gotta get industry involved who's doing this work that says this is a substantial change. And the first thing we wanted to get flushed out was, why do you guys see a substantial change in riprap? What things are you seeing out there right now that's going to,
That's what
and
we
you
need to
said
have.
you got pictures and other things so we can address.
That's why we'd love to have some attendance that we were not getting contractor attendance.
I don't know if it's addressing as much, I know what you're saying and you're right, but I don't think it's addressing as much as it is standardizing. Is that correct? Is that fair to say?
Well,
Peter?
the comments I got where they want to hand seed, they want to dump the riprap and hand place any voids in there.
No, that
in
was if
between.
it's that type. And if you're using this type, then you would do this.
And they want to use, it's not dump riprap anymore. You're seeding it with the pneumatic hammer, right? So there's a, oh yeah. So-
There, and the placement, that's the question I had is, that's why we need contractor involvement, because that was the main point that came out of our working group meeting is we need to run this by contract, see how are you actually doing this stuff, because we're not, this isn't making a lot of sense at this point.
Yeah, and that's why I'm asking
That's
what
what-
committee, because I gotta get people there that's doing this, that's concerned about it. When acceptance is gonna be based on visual appearance, right, by the
Yeah, that's
engineer.
pretty subjective.
Pretty much.
I
So,
remember the fellow that wasn't going to attend.
You know, we've also run cases through multiple working groups. You know, if the materials working group wants to weigh in on it, we could add that to their agenda as well.
well, I'm not asking for it. I just need to know where it's going so I can get
The
people
right
there,
people.
right?
Alex
Um,
Carter was supposed to, unfortunately didn't get him on the last meeting, but he.
But he's the one who forwarded it to me, so
But he's
got-
one from a manufacturer's side.
Yeah, he's an asphalt supplier. I need to get the riprap guys there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was actually the comment that really came out last time after the presentation. It was just a presentation and just language starting to come out. So we're at that stage.
Okay.
But my fear is if we don't get something in by July, we're going to push everything back a year. Maybe that's what we all want to do is push it all back a year. We're going to try the other.
Yeah, I don't want to force it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Brian's got a very valid
Agree, I absolutely
point.
agree.
And Brian, see if you can find some people that want to attend as a partner,
Yeah. We need the
opposed
input.
to, full opposition, but to help,
We need a reality.
mold
check.
it.
Well, I guess what we'll have to do is, you've already done this presentation and out of right of way. Now I gotta get people there to see the presentation, because we really need, the industry needs to see what their concerns are, why they need to revamp this whole 220 spec, right? So we'll have to have you do it again with pictures and presentation, and then start coming up with the language of how to
We
fit
can still have
whatever
a
they're
special
saying.
working session. That's not.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
And I think that the initial was kind of coming from more of a landscape perspective rather than a materials perspective,
And a geology, I heard not, drainage, because that's what it is. It's conveying water, right? And trying to prevent scour and other things, right? So it's not really, so we want some drainage guys there too.
Hydraulic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand where you want that. I think it started with landscape architects because they're the ones that primarily specify this.
Yep.
And that seemed to be an appropriate place to begin this with, but now we need, and it was very obvious that after the presentation, we need input from the contractor.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked about municipalities is we have to maintain this as a municipality and we want to make sure it's right fit. But no, that's a valid point. The placement is also another key factor of
Yeah,
this.
I'm
But thank you.
confused on how it's placed after seeing the presentation. That's why I wanted that. Oh, I brought that up.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions or comments
It's
to this case?
So this is Roy, City of Scottsdale. I don't know if I heard all of the conversation, but I just wanted to clarify. Is part of this case, are we talking about expanding the definition of riprap from rock outside of angular?
Well, our understanding is riprap is both rounded and angular. It's being used in the in placements.
And the only thing I would say with that is I think in MAG, I think our materials spec actually defines it as angular. That's always been my understanding.
Yeah, and here becomes the problem that we now find that what's being used in the field is not necessarily what's being specified in MAG.
Oh,
So
it's called
that's-
out in the plans. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just looking at like our MAG section 703. It actually defines riprap as angular. And the only issues, or some of the issues we've had, and I think you guys have already discussed it, is obviously in Scottsdale where we've got washes, we've got the Indian Bend wash, and anything that's got a significant amount of water. If we don't have angular riprap, we got anything that's rounded, the water just rolls that stuff, and it ends up a maintenance issue for after storm cleanup and such. So
yeah, I think most of the rounded riprap's been used for grouted conditions.
That's what I've seen.
Yeah, I think for the, I'm trying to remember what Wayne called that, fresh.
I always think of it as like river rock,
Yeah.
Well,
the
yes,
rounded stuff, and not defining it as riprap.
Yeah, that's correct. It is a river run and you'll see it a lot just for armoring and plating. And you see it used in conjunction with the grout, the rounded.
Mhm. And this is where I think Wayne had identified, we're seeing a lot of different materials used and the MAG specification is not covering significant amounts of those. So that's where we thought, well, we need to upgrade 220 to match what's actually the material that's available and then what's being placed out there. So this is not meant that we have to get this resolved. If it all comes down next month, we're saying we're not ready and it's got to go through it, I'll probably just withdraw the current case and then we'll put it back together later on and we can start working on 220 and get what we need as you need, as agencies, as contractors need, and get the right placements in there. I don't think there's a problem with that.
Because it's not only contractors, I gotta get suppliers there, because I heard there's a problem with D50 when contractors order D50, that's a problem for suppliers.
How is that? I'm just curious.
They're just saying they can't meet that specification that we got in MAG as the D50. The percentages of 6-inch versus 12-inch versus, so that's why you might be seeing these different,
They can
types of
meet it,
rock.
it's just a heavy rescreen for them and it really changes the operation.
And that's the input we need, figure out what
Oh.
is available.
That's what I gotta
Very
get there.
good. So I'd rather just start the process now. Let's get it worked out.
I agree.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
thanks.
Two gentlemen over there
You got no dog in the fight anymore. I'm retired.
working it out. All right, let's move into outside right-of-way case 26-B, the multiple barrel detention backfill detail. You want to provide an update on that? Well, actually, that would be Jose, yeah. We had Miguel. Was Miguel still online?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Are you able to provide an update on that case for Jose?
Oh, was for the scoring, correct?
It would have been for the outside of right-of-way
Uh,
26 for the multiple barrel detention
no,
places. Okay,
I'm sorry, no.
that's fair enough. It was last updated on the 21st. So 2 months ago. So it's been a while.
So the,
April, was it April 21st? That's what I have.
yeah, I got an update from Phoenix yesterday, which I posted on our website. And that's what I have up now. There's a revision for 6/2/26. I received this from their drafter directly since Jose is out. But essentially what this latest version is there was some markups that were kind of in these clouded areas that were received from Maricopa County, just kind of clarifying the dimensions or seeing some dimensions that had, other rocks behind them or things that made it harder to read. So I think this detail was basically just a final cleanup of the detail that was first, the one from 421. I think the only changes was just cleaning up the look of it.
Okay, so you're basically pulling those measurements out of that background.
Yeah,
Hard
just
to
making it
read.
easier to read, like the
Makes
1
sense.
inch minimum and so on.
So really nothing else has changed since April 21st.
Not that I am aware of.
Okay.
Did you know anything, Peter?
Not that I've heard of, I've heard of no comments being received. We're now going several months without any new comments, and that's why there was potential vote for this month, but with Jose out, I'm not sure.
Yeah, with Jose out, he requested that we hold this over another month so that he can be here when it's voted on.
Okay, yeah, I provided my comments way back when, and I didn't have any additional ones, but yeah, we'll open it up real quick well, not real quick, we'll take our time if needed, but we'll open it up to committee members for discussion, questions, or comments. All right, let's move into agenda item number 14, the working group reports. We'll start with the water sewer working group. Jim Badowich, do we have anybody that's substituting for Jim Badowich and the working group? Gordon, do you want this one?
Yeah, a lot of the stuff were cases that were, some of them were already discussed or approved. Some of the new ones that you can see that were under discussion were, some of the, FRP. They're looking at, adding pressure pipe as one of the options to the new spec that was approved last year. The city of Phoenix, they're going through their supplements. Rob Duvall has identified some that rather than updating their supplement, he wants to bring to MAG. One that was related to the water sewer group specifically was to remove water jetting, I believe, and there was maybe a few other small things. The manhole rings, that's yours, Gene. I don't know if you've done anything on that recently.
No, I meet with industry on Friday to discuss that. Well, I'll have, hopefully, after the meeting Friday, I'll have a draft for the working group to put eyes on.
Okay, the next one is actually one of the new cases that was just discussed, the installation of the specs for PEX A pipe. So that was the newest case from the working group and Chandler. Did you want to handle the next one? We had the presentation today on the ductile wire and pipe coatings, so I think we've kind of covered that already.
Yep. Extra protection for separation requirements, that was just to float the City of Phoenix current supplement standards for identifying that separation from other utilities, whether it's a dry utility or a main line or a lateral line. It was to float that across the working group to see if there was any interest in that. I wasn't at the last meeting, so I don't know if that was discussed or not.
Yeah, I don't think it was really discussed a whole lot. I did see Rob Godwin on today. Did you have anything that you wanted to discuss that Avondale's working on? You and Jim are working on?
You mean for the video?
Yeah, video testing or anything else that you and Jim might be working on.
No, I haven't got, nothing really from Mag4, man. I've got a checklist I've been working on for us to use internally. It might be a starting point for people in the working group to talk about, but I have not made any progress on that in a while.
Okay, and then the last thing on the list, I don't think we actually got to it during the meeting, but I did meet with a couple representatives from Maricopa County Environmental Division, and they had a request as part of their review process to compile a list of MAG tolerances. But when they started looking at what's there, I think the main thing that they had received some concern from some industry was understanding the tolerances for the sewer line pipe, and how right now it's determined by basically the dimensions of the trench. So I think there was something that wasn't clear there for some contractors, and they were trying to find out what tolerances should be used when laying the pipe. So I don't know if there's something we need to do to clarify that, but the end result of that meeting, after discussion of some of their questions, was they didn't really believe that creating a list of MAG tolerances was really what they needed, because there's all sorts of tolerances depending on what you're constructing, and just compiling a list of them really doesn't help them with their problem. But I did add them to the water sewer working group, and so they attended the last meeting and can continue to attend and get some feedback from them. One of the things that I also talk about was the extra protection separation requirements, since they have to approve all the ones that are variances that use the casing instead of encasement.
Yeah, that's one thing Arvid was bringing. I'll just elaborate on that, was utilizing an actual casing pipe instead of the traditional concrete encasement. There's other methods. City of Phoenix has chimed in. Their water, sewer, wastewater division has chimed in that they sometimes will use a slip lining product to achieve that extra protection, to have one continuous pipe. So as technology changes and advances, there's different ways to do it, but thank you, Gordon.
Yeah, and as you can see at the bottom there, the next meeting is scheduled for June 16th, 1:30 via Teams.
Hey, Gordon, for the Maricopa County, for the MAG tolerances, is that about the video and maybe the mandrelling?
I don't think so. I think it was more what MAG tolerances should we have compiled in one great big table so we can take a look on a page and know what we're supposed to do. And I don't think there really is a way to do that ask. But the video tolerances wasn't brought up by them.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Gordon.
Mhm.
Outside of working group reports, outside of right-of-way working group, Peter, you want to provide an update?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We talked already about the miscellaneous correction or potential case one on the filter fabric. So going to that one, riprap spillways, we deferred. Looking down the list of other things, we did not have attendance talk about the detention tank cases, so I think we deferred that to the next meeting also. So the majority of the meeting was, of course, taken up by our discussion, the presentation on the grouted riprap by Wayne Colbank. In terms of that, what he'd provided to us was a presentation on areas that he thought were deficient in the existing specs, or at least weren't mentioned sufficiently. And he did prepare a PowerPoint presentation, which is part of the package of the minutes that came on in. Basically, he was looking at areas of enhanced construct controls, tighter tolerances, because he noted from observations, photos, there were significant differences in those construction controls between identifying the size and depth of joints, how far apart even the riprap is being spaced. You can see that the line and grade in and of itself being highly different from the different ones that he was doing. You'd have and line and grade being probably one of the more important ones that you're meeting the grade that you want. Third, and he called that roughness, for example. How rough do you want it? Maybe rough is good, not good. The next one was the grouted joint spacing, where you have, and that's not mentioned within the existing standards, how much spacing should be there. Should there be type? How should it be done? The grouted joint types and depths, he also noted, could be very, very different. He was just providing examples of what the different ones looked like in there. So as he went to address these, and then finally the aesthetics of what it looks like afterwards, where situations where there's grout just all over the top but nothing being cleaned, versus situations where you'd have the rock showing through. So these are the areas he was pointing out as needing to be addressed. He had identified then potential putting conditions for a rough surface type of riprap placement, a smooth surface type of riprap placement. What will be the tolerances on those in particular? So after going through the deficiencies, we had a discussion on that. He suggested language that would be able to identify quantitatively some of that information. Secondly, though, we talked about the concept of sample panels, and I don't think that's sufficiently addressed right now, or even addressed that much within MAG. And so we did talk about how that could be done, what would need to be accomplished with that. So we, like I said, we had kind of an extended discussion on that, realizing at that time we need to get much more input from the construction world on what's actually being done. What are we looking at versus what really should be done? Are we doing something that is falling within the purview of the municipalities, or we talk about something that's more, big ADOT type projects where we've gone outside of that boundary? So that's where I think we needed the reality check. And I think the discussion earlier is very good, where we need to probably get the construction world involved with what we're trying to put together here. What he did put together was a list of suggestions. They were not meant to be final by any stretch. So some of these suggestions may need to be completely stricken out. I think the most important thing is we need to get hammered down what are the materials that are available, and how can those be placed and still meet it gets something that the agencies can specify, and we don't have something that's nebulous out there towards opinions. Well, I think offline we can talk, Brian, about how we want to move forward with this and get
A lot of it's aesthetics. Well,
yeah,
you're providing an update.
No, that's fine. No, please. Don't bother me.
It's not open for discussion.
We did talk a little bit about the safety rail on side slopes. I think we've only received one comment. We're going to keep working on that. That's going to be more of a long-term thing on how we can try to involve that. And section 796, Evan Fish, again, landscape architects, looking at doing a markup to our existing geosynthetics. That's been something we've needed for quite a while. And again, it's not outside right away. It's one of those orphan specs that gets kind of forgotten about. So he's taken upon himself and will present to the committee his recommendations for updating and modernizing 796. That was the end of the meeting. We will meet next time on June 18th and continue discussions.
Thank you, Peter. Asphalt Materials Concrete Working Group. I didn't see Alex, but I think Hunter was on.
Check, check. You guys hear me?
Mr. Garrison, we hear you loud and clear. You want to provide an update?
Awesome. Yeah. So forgive me, I wasn't at the last little working group meeting, but I did get some updates from Alex, and it looks like, yeah, so City of Phoenix is gonna be putting forward some proposed MAG updates, for 2027. So it looks like they're moving forward on a few items. Just to circle back on, and just forgive me, like I'm not the asphalt guy, but I used to test it a lot. But for section 710, we have 2 task forces. This may be redundant from last week's update, but basically we're splitting it up to a gradation task force and a binder task force to really just get down in the dirty of because we really want to get this done by what's the initial task force meetings are scheduled for the 12th of next week. Yeah, so it's coming up. It's coming up for the task group meetings on the 12th. So we're really looking forward. I forget the deadline for this, but I know it's coming up really soon, and we're just trying to get through that. So I don't know if there's any questions. Other than that, there's just some proposed changes to reducing the optimum moisture requirement from 3% to 2%. Just little things like that. So if there's any questions for me, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, thank you for the informational update, Hunter. I appreciate that.
Yeah, sorry, I'm reading off some notes that I just kind of pulled together real quick.
You're good. I like binder force.
Binder force, yeah, I like that. I think that should be we should coin that.
All right, we're gonna move into the 88 working group. That was with Warren and Jose. Do we have any other representative that wants to provide an update? I'm not at these working groups, so I don't have any real knowledge of that. We have a representative there from Glendale, but he's not here today. Okay.
Chair, I did attend that meeting as well. We've already talked about the street sign details, so that was one of the things that was discussed quite a bit during the meeting. Warren's also been working on the street parking detail. The sign detail kind of came out of that detail because he had signs on that one and realized we needed to update the sign, but I think he's hoping to get the street parking detail out this year. So maybe by next month, hopefully. And then continuing to work on different curb ramp details and the isometric ones for the I lost the word.
For the non-pedestrian crossing?
No, there is for the pedestrian cross. It's the directional ramps. That's the word I was
Okay.
thinking of. To make them easier to understand, and so that's the main things that were discussed in the last meeting. And I believe the next meeting is scheduled for June 18th, 2:30 p.m.
All right, thank you for the update, Gordon. Moving into agenda item number 15, potential cases for 2026. I just would like to reach out to everybody and let you know that July is the final month if we're going to bring a case forward. We usually run till September. We'll have a meeting in September, and we generally try not to have one in October unless we have to get something across the finish line that's really pending, and I don't see a need for that at this current time. But for potential cases, anybody have anything they'd like to bring up today?
As was just touched on in the working group reports, I believe Phoenix is going to try and get their case in for the supplements that they want in MAG in July. And also the section 710, I think one of the reasons they're trying to get those working groups done early this month is they're hoping to get a version of 710 in by July as well.
Wow. Okay, thank you, Gordon. Well, moving into agenda item number 16, the staff report. Gordon, do you have any reports or updates you want to provide?
In the agenda, it talks about an HTML version of the MAG specifications. I've been working with OpenAI's Codex system to code basically a website based on our specs and details book, and it's coming along pretty well. So that may be an option for the future, is having a web version of the specs rather than having to, like if you're using your phone trying to zoom in on a little PDF text page, you can just go to the page and it's maintaining the hyperlinks between sections and things like that. So it's looking promising, and but due to the time that we have, I don't think it's worth demonstrating tonight or today.
Hey, we can put you at the front of the agenda next month for a demonstration. Move into agenda item number 17, which is general discussion. This is information discussion only. Any current events, anything?
I have a question.
Anybody wants to share? Yeah, Paul.
Gordon, it's listed 5/19 for the Waterworks Working Group. That's a Friday. Isn't it 5/16? Is that a typo?
It probably is. It should be on.
Yeah.
You said
It should be on the Tuesday, right?
on a Tuesday.
So it's 5/16. I just wanted to bring that.
I show the 16th. Oh, I wrote down the 16th.
Yeah, this says 19.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, moving into agenda item number 18, requests for future agenda items. Any requests from committee members, Paul?
I would like to see if we could get them lowered to the agenda items to maybe about 15.
Okay, we'll take that into consideration. Anybody else? All right, thank you. And then agenda item 19, comments from the committee. I guess this is where we don't take any action on anything also. Just more of a summary, any kind of notice from any other municipalities or any other members that they want to share with us? All right, thank you, everyone. With that, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.